It is March 25th, 2026. Here's your geopolitics thought for the day. 9/11 conspiracy theories are a form of mass psychotic delusion. And what they are. Okay, so mass psychotic delusion, or psychotic delusions, are often, in psychoanalytical theory, considered to arise when somebody learns a fact that it becomes increasingly difficult to repress. And because that fact is so central to the world, they have to engage in increasingly fanciful stories to maintain their sense of self against this fact. 9/11 conspiracy theories protect the conspiracy theorist from the idea that Bush's actions were, in some sense, and the entire post 9/11 conspiracy or security theater and world are, in some sense, rational. If Bush was fundamentally responsible for 9/11, if 9/11 is a fictional action, a fictional attack, in essence, then any political movement that is not George W. Bush has a simple answer to the problem of 9/11 and the problem of large-scale terrorism in general, which is, I wouldn't do that. But if 9/11 wasn't a conspiracy theory, then any political movement would have to react to terrorism. And I think this is tough, especially for people on the extreme right and on the extreme left, because terrorism against the United States, terrorism aimed at American capitalism, for example, as 9/11 was, American, we might say bourgeois society, inspired by Sayyid Qutb and all that. That form of terrorism doesn't threaten, for example, an American communist, because they can simply say, well, I would be a socialist, or an American conservative, extreme paleoconservative, because they can say, well, I agree with the essential critique of American society, and if I was in charge, that wouldn't be the case. My ideal society would not provoke this kind of terroristic action. But this gets at kind of the heart of the danger of over territorializing international action, because other parties get a vote, right? If Osama bin Laden, a guy from the other side of the world, with a political worldview that was mostly related to his own life in a different culture, has the ability to take actions which impinge so dramatically on the United States, well, that means that the United States' foreign policy isn't totally elective. And it means that we have to engage in a more sophisticated critique of Bush's actions. I would begin, for example, with the decision to carry out torture. I think that was one of the worst decisions ever made by any president, including by Donald Trump. So this is a pretty high bar. And I think the decision to lie about the invasion of Iraq, to lie about the reasons for the invasion of Iraq, separate from the decision to actually invade Iraq, is also extremely damaging to the United States, also extremely damaging to his own ability to prosecute a foreign policy. The decision to put Paul Bremer in charge of Iraq, extremely damaging. The decision to refuse to engage in nation building, the sort of the libertarian utopian idea that if we just knocked out the Iraqi government, they would, independently develop American capitalism, American conservative capitalism, was, I think, based on kind of a fanciful idea of Islam held by the government at the time. I think that, the decision to, especially to not do nation building, the decision to not pick a side in the Iraqi, like civil conflict, like not to create a pro-American constituency or to cultivate a pro-American constituency, and to try to make alliances with local powers. That was a huge mistake. But these are all like technical issues, right? These are all problems that sort of follow from the decision to invade Iraq. And so if you're against the Iraq War, just fundamentally, and I think I am as well, then it becomes very difficult for you to solve these problems. Like, well, what do you do about Saddam Hussein, right? Is Saddam Hussein a supporter of terrorism? Like, is Saddam Hussein threatening? Is the possibility of Saddam Hussein getting a weapon of mass destruction in the future, how threatening is that? Should I attack Saddam Hussein because he might get a weapon of mass destruction and he might use that? Like am I willing to prosecute a war for a 25% chance of a terrorist act, right? Or much lower? Like what's the threshold there? And these are all like real questions, because if you don't answer them, these one day you're going to find yourself answering it the hard way. If you don't answer it ahead of time, you're going to be put on the spot with no thought. And this is a complicated issue for a lot of people, or more complicated at least than I think people make it out to be. That was your geopolitics thought of the day for March 25th, 2026.